From my home, we would like to welcome you to CASA's virtual campaign to care. I hope and pray that you and your loved ones are safe and well during this COVID season. For everyone, this has been a season like no other. Safe at home is not safe at home for many of the children that we serve. With stay-at-home orders and virtual schooling, abuse and neglect can remain hidden. With things opening up and children coming into contact with mandated reporters, children are again coming into care. And the need for CASA is more important than ever before. CASA is a really unique organization. It trains and equips volunteers from the community to be a voice for children who have experienced abuse and neglect. The volunteers that we engage go through extensive training, and they are sworn in as an officer of the court, and they're appointed by the judge and matched with a specific individual child or sibling group, and they begin to visit with that child, get to know everybody involved with that child, and their purpose is to advocate for the needs of that individual child within the court system and within the community. To make sure the right things happen for them and ensure they receive needed services, supports, and ultimately make sure that they end up in the most appropriate, safe, and loving home. In addition to children being impacted by the COVID season, CASA has also experienced an impact. We had 3 fundraising events canceled, which generally bring in about $75,000. In addition, CASA recently learned that a significant federal funding source may no longer be available to CASA programs across the state in the next fiscal year, which brings CASA approximately $160,000. These 2 funding streams together comprise nearly half of CASA's budget. This need for funding, in addition to the need for volunteers and diverse engagement, has led us to launch a broad-scale campaign to care. This acronym stands for Child Abuse Advocacy Requires Everyone. Child abuse is a community problem. It requires everyone. It could be your neighbor, your grandson, a child at the grocery store, a child that you see Sunday morning at church, children laughing on a playground as you walk your dog. It's not far away, it's close. These children are strong and resilient, yet vulnerable. Their stories are painful, yet remarkable. It is my hope that you hear the call through the stories that you hear. It is not a call that can be ignored. Their vulnerability provokes responsibility. So whether you have a heart to serve, to give, or to engage others with CASA's mission, we trust that you will respond to CASA's campaign to care. Because you care, we are able to impact outcomes for children who have experienced abuse and neglect. Thank you.
Without the sports in my life, probably would be in jail, dead, or on the streets. The hand I was dealt wasn't the best, but after some time, with some support and a good system of a safety net, CASA especially, I was able to make sure I was on the right track, stayed on the right track.
CASA services are unique in the fact that they are just a singular voice for the child. They visit the child weekly. They get to know the child on a much deeper level than many other organizations because of the amount of visits that they do. And then once they're able to build that bond and rapport, the child is more likely to open up to them. Oftentimes, CASA volunteers have things disclosed to them that may not be disclosed to caseworkers and guardian ad litems, which allows CASA then to really advocate for the best interest of the child within the court system.
They help the kids, and by helping me with information, these kids get the best possible results.
Lansing and his siblings were the first teenage group that I worked with. Some kids who are in foster care don't have that person who helps them navigate high school or choosing college courses and stuff. So that's what we're there for, is to mentor them through some of those things.
We take everyday volunteers, people from the community of all different backgrounds, and we need you. It's a need, the children need you. We aren't able to match every child that comes into care. And each and every child needs an advocate. It's something that you can do.
When we say the system, it's such an adult world. And oftentimes these children are in unsafe situations, or a family needs help or support or some love or even just some understanding and connection within their community. And when a parent's making poor choices, it's really hard for a child to understand that or to kind of know where their place is in that. And I see that as a teacher and as a CASA and as a parent. In my school alone, there are a lot of families that go through the foster care system, and situations end where children are pulled from homes or their support's placed into their homes. And I wanted to be able to advocate for that child because sometimes their voice is not heard.
I think CASA has this really amazing way of finding really good matches between supportive adults and children, and putting supportive adults in the homes of the most neediest children in the child welfare system. It's a service that is meant to not look at anything other than what is in the child's best interest. And while that is always a factor in child welfare cases, it is literally the goal of CASA to provide advocacy and recommendations that center around child-specific needs. One of the children that I volunteered for had a number of individuals in his life that he had met over his time in foster care, had really kind of closed off to adults. He was pretty bonded with foster parents that took care of him, but most other adults outside of his home he was cautious of, he was weary to talk to. And I spent a lot of time building rapport with him to make sure that he felt comfortable with me. He began disclosing things to me, offering information to me that he hadn't offered to other people, giving me a perspective about his life that maybe he hadn't shared with other folks before me. And that became a really beautiful thing, that he felt safe enough to share information with me that otherwise he had protected. He had protected himself from a lot of external interference from adults, and he didn't trust adults very well. And over time, I did get his trust. And that was so impactful to both him and myself.
It takes a lot for a person to open up, especially when it's an outsider or someone you don't know involved with courts and systems like that. So to have that one person who's going to know your name and who's going to care about you and reach out to you when you need it really makes a difference.
I've been involved with CASA, the CASA program, prior to becoming a judge, and found the program to be extremely beneficial for kids going through the system.
For the kids that are lucky enough to have a CASA, it means the world of difference. It means probably the most stable adult that they've ever had in their life, including their parents.
They are, as I said, an advocate for children and for the best results for children. They're interested in what's best for the child, whether that is either return or removal. If the child is returned to a parent, then they're part of that monitoring to make sure that that child is back in a home with a parent that is providing adequately for them and safety for them.
Children in the system who had or have a CASA worker, their lives have been changed. They've come out ahead and come out more confident, stronger, and resilient.
Kids don't come into the system because their home life is great. They come into the system because their home life is inconsistent, it's troubled, there's tension, there's trauma. So to have an adult that they can come to realize loves them, cares about them, is going to show up for them every week, that could be the first bond that they have with an adult that they can actually count on. And that's everything to a kid.
I think one of the big benefits, what we see, is that the CASA workers, the advocates, because they go out weekly, they end up building a relationship, a strong bond with the children. It's a trusting relationship. And most often, those are the most consistent people in that child's life.
That CASA stays with that child and gives that child some one person throughout the process that they're comfortable with, and an advocate for them to have the best possible outcome, whether it's adoption or some other guardianship with a family member. Any of those outcomes are what the CASA is trying to do as far as coming up what's best for a child.
It makes a world of difference to these kids. They finally have somebody who is showing up for them, only cares about them, only cares about what they need, what they want, and the confidence that that instills in a child, the worthiness that they feel when an adult has that level of interest in them, it can be life-changing.
The child that I volunteered with had such an impact on my life that I felt like I had the capacity and ability to do more than what I was doing, and really felt called to become a foster parent. So that's where we are today, and it's a beautiful thing, and I don't know that I would have gotten here without CASA.
You know, you don't have to have 40 hours a week into a volunteer position. This can be something that you do and you work with slowly over time to help build, and that we are really investing in our own community by helping to provide this advocacy and this support for our kids and families. They're the future of our community. So if we don't build to make that better, you know, then where's our community going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
We thank you for your time listening to what we have to say. We hope that the lives of these children have touched someplace in your heart. If you have the ability to give financially, please do so. We take credit cards, check, cash. Please browse the website on how to give. And also consider giving your time. It might only be a week or two for you, but for the kids, it could be a world of difference. So please contact us on how to get more involved.